One of the first things that President Barack Obama did when he got into office was ordered a drone strike, which ended up killing about 24 women and children. I remember reading the story a really long time ago, and I was surprised because I thought that Obama was going to be the one to end these wars. No, they ended up just calling him Obama. Obama, that's right, because ultimately he ended up killing several American citizens, most notably Abdulrahman al-Awlaki and Anwar al-Awlaki. Whatever the crimes of Anwar al-Awlaki may have been, he was an American citizen who was warranted due process. We put the Nazis on trial at Nuremberg. Abdulrahman al-Awlaki, however, was a 16-year-old kid eating at a civilian cafe in Yemen, and for some reason the U.S. decided to drone bomb that. This is the history and the nature of U.S. foreign policy. And now that Donald Trump is out of office, we are returning to this doctrine. But to be fair, I'll throw shade at Donald Trump as well, because one of the first things he did when he got into office was he ordered a commando raid in Yemen, which is believed to have killed an 8-year-old American girl. In fact, the sister of Abdulrahman al-Awlaki. None of these people deserve to walk away from this. As the president, the buck stops with them. And perhaps, as we've seen with Donald Trump, it's not so easy. But I think that if we're going to in any way kind of diminish Donald Trump's role in the chaos that ensues in the Middle East, overseas, we'd have to at least give some credit to Obama. What I mean to say is I believe that permanent government, as it's called, right? Some may refer to this as the deep state. But what this really is just people in bureaucratic positions who are appointed and remain in these positions for extended period of times, regardless of elections. These are the people that are making these decisions and giving this advice that ultimately results in chaos and death. And maybe it's because they're incompetent. Maybe it's because they're callous. Or maybe it's because they want to exacerbate the crisis as a justification for nation building and conquest in many of these countries. I think that is probably the case. Because now we're getting the latest news on what's going on in Afghanistan. And I got to say, the Biden administration is a return to the hard doctrine of, well, I guess the Obama-Biden administration, because Biden was part of all of that. So it's no surprise that we're getting reports that 9 members of one family, including 6 children, were just killed in a U.S. drone strike near Kabul airport. You know, I want to make sure I'm being accurate and fair. As I stated in the several videos, if Donald Trump were president at this time and the Taliban began overrunning Afghan security forces, I believe the drones would have been out in full force. But you see, this is a good example, in my opinion, of, well, first I'll say my bias. I would assume that Donald Trump would have acted more quickly, and perhaps that's wrong. I have no real way to judge that because we can't see into alternate timelines. But when the Taliban started rushing in, executing Afghan security force commandos, and then sweeping into provincial capitals, I believe Donald Trump would have used drones, and he would have used them against the Taliban. The problem now is Bagram Air Force Base was abandoned nearly overnight. The Taliban overran the provincial capitals, taking Kabul. And now we are pinned down with attacks happening near one of the gates. U.S. Marines and other servicemen and women losing their lives. And now Joe Biden says, send in the drones. The only problem? Their intel is bad. You see, if you launch a drone strike at a group of very obvious combatants in vehicles storming through the desert, you know, I shouldn't assume it's that simple. But I would say when you're looking at an advancing militaristic faction from the sky, it's probably easier to figure out who these people are as opposed to being in a big city like Kabul of 5 million people. And then the Biden administration fires missiles from a drone and reportedly didn't kill anybody related to ISIS. Now, these people, the Central Command, are claiming that the vehicles had explosives in them, proving that they were up to something. But even CNN is reporting that this was just a family and 6 children. Now, fog of war, my friends, it is very difficult to know for sure. And I'm not, as much as I can complain about all of these past administrations, going back to Bush and what they've been doing in the Middle East, we don't know for sure. And I think it would be wrong to immediately jump to conclusions before we have anything hard and definitive. But I don't know if we'll ever get anything hard and definitive out of this stuff. It's fog of war. Look, the U.S. has interests in toning down the crisis because they don't want to look bad. And certainly the Taliban wants it to be that children were attacked so they can blame the United States and make us look bad. And ultimately, you're just trying to figure out who to trust. The images coming out of this are haunting, to say the least. Timcast.com has the reporting. 9 members of a single family, including 6 children, were killed in the U.S. drone strike near the Kabul airport on Sunday. The children ranged from 2 to 10 years old. U.S. Central Command had said that the drone strike wiped out a vehicle that was carrying multiple suicide bombers who posed an imminent ISIS-K threat to the airport. Quote, "We are aware of reports of civilian casualties following our strike on a vehicle in Kabul today. We are still assessing the results of this strike, which we know disrupted an imminent ISIS-K threat to the airport," Captain Bill Urban, USN U.S. Central Command spokesman, said in a statement. "We know that there were substantial and powerful subsequent explosions resulting from the destruction of the vehicle, indicating a large amount of explosive material inside that may have caused additional casualties." Urban concluded, quote, "It is unclear what may have happened, and we are investigating further. We would be deeply saddened by any potential loss of innocent life." A brother of one of the people killed in the strike told CNN that they were an ordinary family that did not have ties to terrorist organizations. Quote, "We are not ISIS or Daesh, and this was a family home where my brothers lived with their families," he told the network. Photos from the scene were posted to social media. I'm for obvious reasons, I'm not going to be showing those photos. But this is confirmed reporting. This is from CNN. Okay, we are not just pulling this out of nowhere. This is, of all the outlets to be making the Biden administration look really, really bad right now. That says a lot, doesn't it? But it does say a lot. It says, for one, the loyalties of CNN probably lie more with massive multinational corporations and nation building, military industrial complex, profit building, et cetera, et cetera. Here's the reporting from CNN. 9 members of one family were killed in a U.S. drone strike targeting a vehicle in a residential neighborhood of Kabul, according to a relative of those killed. Now, hold on. It's from CNN. It's a relative reporting this. Maybe it's not true. Who is this individual? They say those, but CNN is reporting this as definitive. They say those killed included 6 children, the youngest being a 2-year-old girl. The brother of one of the dead told a local journalist working with CNN. He said the people killed were his brother, Zamareh, 40 years old, Nasir, 30, Zamir, 20, Faisal, 10, Farzad, 9, Armin, 4, Benjamin, 3, Ayat, 2, and Sumaya, 2. The brother cried as he told the journalist that they were an ordinary family. CNN obtained images of the aftermath of the strike. A U.S. official confirmed a location in Kabul's Kajay Bugra neighborhood. Bukhra, hope I'm pronouncing that right. U.S. Central Command said earlier that they were assessing the possibilities of civilian casualties. A man named Ahad, who said he was a neighbor of the family, told CNN all the neighbors tried to help and brought water to put out the fire, and I saw that there were 5 or 6 people dead. The father of the family and another young boy, and there were 2 children. They were dead. They were in pieces. There were also 2 wounded. Ahad told CNN he had witnessed the airstrike at around 5 p.m. local time. As he walked towards his home, he said he heard the noise of a rocket and a loud bang and ducked for cover before trying to help rescue his neighbors. Ahad told CNN that 2 other people were wounded in the attack. The U.S. military said in a statement, significant secondary explosions from the vehicle indicated the presence of a substantial amount of explosive material. A local journalist who visited the scene soon after the airstrike told CNN, whatever material was in the car, I don't know. The car was in a very bad state. Just a skeleton of the car was left. The journalist, who is not being named for security reasons, was told by family members of the deceased that there were 2 cars parked at the home. One was a Corona and the other was a Camry. The journalist said he'd been told that one of the cars contained one of the fathers and his 3 children getting ready to go to a family event. Now, it is difficult. It is. Who do you trust? Do you trust the locals on the ground in Afghanistan who are saying more than one person that it was a family and children? Do you trust U.S. Central Command, who is saying we are unclear? It is unclear as to what happened. I think we're going to have to err on the side of the U.S. just drone bombed a family. It's not the first time they've done this, and I have no reason to believe they are doing a good job. Based on everything we've seen so far, it appears to be chaos, catastrophe, and blunders all around. You look at what happened with the abandoning of Bagram Air Force Base, the loss of logistics. Now, some people are blaming Trump. They're saying in Trump's agreement, his peace treaty with the Taliban, that he agreed to withdraw logistics from the Afghan security forces. And Biden decided to stick to that plan. But that's just not true. Joe Biden did not stick to the original treaty, nor did the Taliban. And therein lies the big problem. You can argue that the Taliban isn't adhering to the treaty. Biden didn't when he extended the deadline past May 1st. In which case, why? Well, first of all, why would we trust the Taliban not, to adhere to the treaty anyway? They ended up storming in and attacking as soon as they had the opportunity. So I'll tell you this. Everybody bears a little bit of the fault. Truth is, even if Trump did say we'll pull logistics, based on what had happened, there's always the possibility Biden could have said no. But I will tell you, I will say in the end, I believe it is better that the U.S. leaves than stays. I absolutely do. I think, look, I was talking to Cassandra Fairbanks and on the Tim Cassarel show, and we were talking about China, the Uyghur camps and things like that. And I was saying, like, look, there's a hard line for us. Like, what do we do when we see these camps? Do we just leave these people to suffer? And Cassandra made it a very, very good point. There are countries all over the planet in which atrocities are currently being carried out, and we never talk about them, and we don't do anything about them, and we don't care because the media doesn't propagandize this. And I said, it's a good point. There's a lot going on in Northern Africa that we could absolutely be stopping, but we don't see that on the news. We don't hear these stories. We aren't told to be outraged by it. It's only when there's some strategic interest for the military-industrial complex do we actually say, oh, okay, we're going to go and get involved and we must do more. And now I'm seeing people post memes where they're like, when it's they deployed 26,000 troops to the Capitol for Trump supporters, but only 5,000 for our Americans trapped in Afghanistan. And I'm like, yeah, that's a tough call. Look, it's one thing to send in troops for nation building. It's another thing to send in troops to evacuate Americans. So I'm kind of there. I'm kind of, Biden screwed this one up, but I don't think we can just abandon Americans because our priorities are not to the Taliban first. The Taliban may be upset that we didn't get out right away, but our allegiances right now are to getting these Americans out. Reports are that American citizens are being turned away at the airport. Yeah. Tucker Carlson says he thinks Joe Biden was doing this on purpose, or that he entertains the possibility. I don't want to put words in his mouth. And it really does make you wonder. I'm sorry, my friends. I love America. I really, really do. I've been all over the world. And to shout out Bill Maher, who talked about this on his show this past weekend, he said conservatives are Trump-waving zealots who love America and cry at the anthem and everything like that. But liberals have gone completely the other direction, thinking America is awful and evil. And he says, why do you think it is that Afghan mothers are handing their babies to us? Because they know what America is. They know what America means. And they know that this is a chance for their child to have a life better than what would happen in Afghanistan. Because America is awesome. But you know what? With all that being said, I have to look at what goes on with the military-industrial complex, nation building, and Joe Biden and tell you this. We are being led, ruled by, I'd call these people ghouls, but ghouls tend to be a bit mindless. More like licks, a lich. Liches, not licks, liches. Is that the right word? Yeah. They're undead and depraved, but they aren't stupid. They're just depraved, evil, and self-interested. You ready for this, my friends? You ready to really get into the level of depravity? Okay. Mom of Marine who died in Kabul says, Biden voters killed my son. Ma'am, your son had a lot of trust in the chain of command, in the president, and he fulfilled his duty honorably and admirably, knowing the risks. I have tremendous and absolute respect for that. There's one thing if there's one thing I really do admire, it's loyalty. Absolutely. Loyalty is something powerful and fantastic, that we trust each other, that we would fight for each other, and that we would never abandon each other. But you can lose trust. And with that, you don't deserve someone's loyalty, but I do respect it. And it's sad because I feel this is the fault of Biden, and he is costing us the lives of our best and bravest. Certainly, I would not enlist into combat to go to Kabul. I don't know what to say about it. These people are I hate to be cliche and say something like heroes, but many of these people are brave and the bravest we could possibly get, who are smart, passionate, and say, I want to do something good. And the problem is we have a corrupt machine sending our best and brightest into conflict, and that is horrifying because it means that the rest of us, those who are unwilling to fight, are who are left behind. And that means as time goes on, well, what do they say? Strong men make good times make weak men make hard times make strong men. So I think about that. And there are certainly strong people in this country who have not served. Don't get me wrong. And that's good and important for us. But I wonder if each and every day we send our bravest, our brightest, our strongest, and most heroic into conflict where they lose their lives, then we're effectively selecting out that passion and that bravery and responsibility from the general population. You know, it is what it is. But let me tell you about the depravity, because I want to say to those who lost their lives, I have the utmost and most profound respect for these individuals. Take a look at what Joe Biden thinks. Biden ripped for apparently glancing at his watch during a ceremony for fallen troops. Yeah, I almost threw up on my mouth a little bit when I saw that one. You know, I'm nearly brought to tears when I first heard about these young men and women who stayed at the border defending the airport to make sure that our allies could be evacuated. Not even Americans who were warned to stay away, but they said we care more about others than our own lives. Of course, they care about their lives, but they felt the good in saving these people was more than themselves. Joe Biden, he takes a look at his watch. How long is this going to be? Jeez, love to get back and get some ice cream. Sit in my little chair in the sunroom with a little blanket on my lap, fall asleep. Because that's what this means to him. There are photos of him at a podium, and he's looking somber and nearly in tears, and I just don't buy it. I really don't, because these candid moments are when you really see how someone feels. Yeah, Biden can put on a show. He's a politician. That's what they do. And then when Biden is actually at the ceremony, he's like, how much longer is this going to take? Jeez, I don't even care about these people. Right, Biden? Right, Biden? You know, there was a warning given out. This is what I want to know. This is what I want someone to ask, you know, Jen Psaki or whoever's the press briefing. A warning was given out to Americans and British citizens that an attack was imminent and to stay away. And even with our American citizens being pushed away, the Afghan allies were still coming through and being processed for evacuation. And these Marines stayed and were checking information, knowing the warning went out. So we knew it was so dangerous that our own citizens shouldn't come. But we also felt like our men and women in uniform should work the checkpoint. And I think that's honorable. Not what the command did, but that these men and women were like, we're going to keep working the checkpoint and getting these people in, and then someone attacked. Now, I'm concerned that there may be more attacks. Absolutely. And, you know, we hear about this ISIS-K. But you know what? I do not trust the military-industrial complex. I do not believe them. I believe you look at how awful and failed all of this has been. And you've got people in media saying, this is funny, they're like, what are they really all the Democrat media are like, what are they really complaining about? The media is being unfair to Joe Biden. Unfair? We're dealing with, 60 Afghan civilian deaths, children, 13 U.S. service members, a drone strike killing children. You see, this is the problem. This is the problem that we've been facing for so long. And Americans are finally paying attention to it. Maybe it's a good thing. Maybe this will snap people out of it. And they'll start saying, yo, man, we should just leave other people alone and mind our own business, the way the founding fathers intended. But at some point, we became the world police. At some point, our currency, backed by nothing, became the reserve currency of the world. And it was at that point, I believe, the founding fathers' vision was trampled over and smashed by a boot because people didn't know and people didn't care. And so what do you do now? I think we maintain our positions of liberty, and I'm not no isolationism. No, I'm not for that. A lot of people are. Some friends of mine are. I'm not. No, I'm a bit of middle of the road kind of guy. You know, I think we need to be working with our allies. We need these trade agreements. We need certain resources that are available in other countries, you know, like raw materials that we can have shipped here and things like that. We want to create more ties with other countries while making sure that the bulk of our spending, that the revenue from our citizens is going towards helping the people in this country. And then once we have secured our own face mask, we can worry about the face mask of those sitting next to us. we can bring in many more people who want to immigrate to this country, and we can use our resources to expand the economy, make this country stronger and better, to instill our values in those who would come and say, this is why America is great. Instead, we prove over and over again the problems of America. Because this drone strike in Afghanistan, I tell you this, is going to create bigger problems. It'll create more ISIS. It'll create more Al-Qaeda. And now we are getting insane reports, the absolutely insane reports, that a major Al-Qaeda player has returned to Afghanistan, returns to his native Nangarhar province after it fell to the Taliban. Dr. Amin became close to Osama bin Laden in the 80s when he worked with Abdullah Azam in Maktaba Akhi-Damat. Probably pronouncing that wrong. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on all this stuff. I don't know. You know, there's a lot of stuff I don't know about this. It might be easy for me to sit here with, well, I have no armchairs, but to sit here and be like, they should have done this. I've never served in the military, but I would have evacuated better. And I can just repeat what other experts have said, flabbergasted why we abandoned Bagram Air Force Base, in which case I'm like, you know, I think at this point it is fair for, you know, John Doe and Joe Smith and Jane Doe or whatever, and Jane Smith, sitting there in their lounge chairs in their living room watching Fox News or CNN to say, I could have done a better job than this. Because there's been way too many blunders. Way too many. That's the sad reality of war, my friends. But we got a lot of news today. We got a lot of news. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all then.